It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Dart Talk carries the Internet Broadcast Rating TVD, a broadcast that is specifically designed to be viewed or heard by the darting community, and therefore may be incomprehensible to other lesser mammals. Darter discretion advised.
Okay, back for part two.
Part two.
Welcome to Dart Talk.
Welcome.
Welcome back to Dart Talk.
It's like the double bonus.
Yeah,
It's
overtime.
Double issue. This will make up for the fact that we're not going to be here next week. So
That's true. Did we tell everybody we won't be here
we did
next
the first
week?
time.
We did,
We
right?
should probably
Okay.
mention it again.
Yeah, this is in lieu of next week's show. Steve Spence-Yellman with Mystery Mark, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
Dartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Okay, so Easter weekend, everybody can chill, but then the week after is, Dartageddon.
Dartageddon.
Because
Vegas.
I did forget something, and everybody says that, I'm so anti-soft tip and all this other stuff. So in lieu of that, just to prove that I have no West Coast, East Coast bias and no, I'm totally fine with people playing soft tip. There is something going on. Well, there's something going on somewhere in the Far East, which, forgive me because I don't really know, but pretty much everybody who is anybody is going to be in Vegas for the NWDS. The best dart players in North America, with no exceptions, will be in Vegas.
Right.
Weekend after next for the NWDS and the North American Championship Tour, with some notable exceptions.
Okay. Which would be?
Well, let's see. Ray Carver and Scotty Kirchner and Benny Dersch are Americans that are going to go to Hong Kong and play in something called the Dartslive Superdarts, which is, I guess, an invitation-only knockout competition with some really good players from all over the world. You got Antonio Alcinas. You got David Fathom lives in America, but I think he's under the Canadian flag. Paul Lim. Sho Katsumi, Hiroki Muramatsu, Morihiro Hashimoto, Takahiro Suzuki,
Lawrence
Royden Lamb. Lawrence Illigan will be there. Colin Lloyd and Mark Webster coming over there. That ought to be interesting. They're going to be live streaming it and stuff. There's some Frenchmen that I don't like. I won't mention them.
Okay.
But everybody else is pretty good. So it ought to be these Darts Live events. What makes them compelling, I think, to me, aside from the fact that I think they're cool because the board lights up from the inside and you can actually see what you're throwing at, even in bad lit areas. So I think they're by far the best machine boards I've ever seen. What's cool about their format is always such a coin flip. And I don't know what format these guys are playing, but like the normal world stages that they play where it's like 701 cricket, 701 cricket, choice. Pretty much, and it's mugs away. You always have a chance.
Yeah.
And you never feel safe. And the matches that I've seen, especially the last World one, so many of them went to the fifth leg, and it was so kind of touch and go and stuff. And it comes down to
Very
one dart that you
compelling
either
darts.
hit or missed.
Right.
Yeah, I find it drama. And, of course, the NWDS is going to be way more compelling. and there's going to be way more players because this one's only got 16, and the NWDS is going to have 150 guys,
right?
And I think 50 women.
I thought
something like that. Close to 150 guys, close to 50 women, and they're the best players in North America. I mean, that's going to be a total dogfight.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to forget to mention this.
It's still important.
And it's definitely worth checking out. So if you guys go to dartslive.com/superdarts, you can get the lowdown on it. And we'll dispense with that.
They'll be streaming that.
They'll be streaming that.
Are they streaming Vegas?
Yeah, they are streaming Vegas, and if you go to newworlddartseries.com and keep checking that, they'll let you know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
I haven't seen the schedule as far as when the stream's going to start, when they're doing this, when they're doing that, and that will all be communicated to everybody. So make sure you bookmark newworlddartseries.com for stuff like that, and if we get any more information during the show, we'll be happy to convey it. Hint, hint. You want to do that? And let's preview the. We'll save the Premier League for last.
Okay.
Let's talk about the
NWDS.
Yeah. Now the NWDS is what I consider the ultimate format, right? It's going to be round robin. It's all 0-1. It's all 0-1 singles. It's round robin Saturday and knockout Sunday. Same deal as before, where if you're in the top 4 of your knockout group, you're going to get into the big money knockout round of 64 on Sunday, and if you don't get that high, you'll end up in the knockout consolation round, which is still it's a shorter format, but it's still a long format compared to what everybody's used to, and it still pays $1,000 to the winner.
Yeah.
So the consolation is not just
nothing to
it's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
I don't think. I'm not sneezing at it. I'll really quickly. There's some confusion, and I got some emails. Okay, here's the deal. From what I understand it, and again, people can always, correct me for the error of my ways. But before they do that, I will run this, and then I will be blameless.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect the thoughts or opinions of the hosts, our sponsors, any official Dart sanctioning organization, and post hoc ergo propter hoc, any and all spelunkers, debunkers, raconteurs, roustabouts, technocrats, hepcats, cat ladies, Lady Gaga, the Four Seasons, the Three Stooges, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, hipsters, kibitzers, hellions, the fickle finger of fate, or Tom Waits. Any remarks resembling anyone living or dead is purely coincidental and in no way represent Mother Earth, Father Time, Aunt Marilyn, Uncle Fester, all organized religions, independent contractors, official friends of the show, the North America Professional Dart Alliance, the Undead, the Grateful Dead, or Sharon D. Butler.
we haven't disclaimed that long in a while.
We haven't run the long one in a long time. Okay, so here's the deal. The round robin is going to be seeded using the NAPTA rankings, North American Professional Dart Alliance rankings, which is different than just going by the North American Championship Tour money list. Because there's only been a couple of events, that money list is almost useless because you're going to have 10, 15-way ties. So to me, this makes a little bit more sense to do it this way. And to answer the question,
eventually they'll end up with doing a money list.
Well, what's going to happen is once everybody is through their round robins and you know who the 64 players are, then they're going to use the PDC North American Championship Tour money list to seed the people that are remaining. So off the top of my head, I think Darren Young is the number 1 seed on that money list because he had 3 seconds in last year.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a PDC this year.
Right.
So if Darren gets through his round robin, he will be the number 1 seed and so on down the list. So I think either John Part or Larry Butler will be second and so on. But they have to get through the round robin. So you guys, feel free to knock them out.
Right.
So I guess what they're going to do is they're going to have 16 groups, 2 seeds per group. I'm going to run down the seeds super, super quick. Darren Young, Larry Butler, Bob Seneve, Gordon Dixon, myself, Scott Wollaston. And you'll notice I'm above Scott Wollaston.
Yes.
Just consider that the regular order of the universe.
Or I can consider it lucky.
No. Consider it like the standard way the universe should run until further notice.
Yeah.
Sevens, Joe Cheney, Jay Barlow, Chris White, Ralph McCool, Dan Olson, DJ Sayer, Gary Mawson, Andre Carmen, Dieter Schutz, Ross Snook, Joe Sliven, Conley Litton, Ryan Barnett, John Part, Chuck Pankow, Dave Switzer, Donnie Joe, Nico DePanos, Sheldon Lionel, Laura Thau, Nick Lindberg, Mark Fair, Matthew Thompson, Frank Hernandez, Brian Plum, and Norden Madu. Those are your seeds for the round robin. So they're going to put 2 seeds in every group, and 4 people from every group should get through.
Your top 4 seeds would be Darren Young, John Part, Larry Butler, and Andre Carmen.
And Andre Carmen, because he won the one in Canada. Okay. So as long as those guys get through, that's how they'll be seeded. Right. And so on down the road.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of guys that I'm looking at as being in ideal positions.
Okay.
One is, if you look at the 7 seed, you got Joe Cheney, right, who's coming off of course, you got to double out, Joe. But he's coming off spectacular play. Coming off spectacular play in Virginia Beach, right? Got to consider him like the hottest guy around today. Anyway, I mean, 2 weeks,
Maybe he
2
can
weeks
just leave himself double bowl all the time, just like throwing a cricket match.
He's a cricket playing. However, he's also going to be seeded because he is on the North American Championship Tour money list because he made a couple of top 8s, I think, last year. So he's going to be in a very good position. He gets through his round-robin group. He's going to have a seed, which means he's not going to run into, any of the other seeds until he's in the round of 16.
Yeah.
Right? That is an advantage. It's if you got to play a guy like John Part, you want to play him when you're in the money. You don't want to play him in the first round.
Exactly.
But the other thing, and I was going to mention this about Virginia Beach, I mean, Jill Hutchinson lost to Marilyn Pop. One round before the money in the 301 singles on Friday night, and then Stacy Bromberg was playing the winner. And I was talking to her later, and she's like, telling me about the match with Marilyn. I'm like, well, and then you had Stacy, on deck. That's 2 of the top 3 women in the country that you have to beat back to back.
Yeah.
If that isn't an argument for seeding, I don't know what is. Right? It's one thing. You're kind of picking on people, and then because they're in one bracket, another bracket is having it much easier. So I think everyone who's interested in fairness, and jot that down, we're going to get the fairness, should be 4 seeding. And I know that there's a lot of misconceptions on that. So yeah, I would watch out for Cheney at 7, Jay Barlow. Chris White played very well in Virginia Beach, as did Ralph McCool. And if you look at the results all through the year, Ralph's probably done as well as anybody. He doesn't play much on the East Coast. He mostly plays in the South and in the like Mid-Atlantic and the Deep South and whatnot. But he's been winning everywhere he goes, and he's gone a lot of places this year. And he's also going to be on. He'll be seeded based on his. I think he got a top 8 in Atlantic City.
He makes it through the bracket.
Yeah, he's 1 for 1. So I find that interesting. I also find interesting that on this. Oh well, okay, yeah, there is. Okay, there's a couple of people aren't coming that are deserve to be mentioned, but so I won't mention them. If you look at the top seed, well, let's look at the bottom seeds. You got a guy like Mark Fair, who is one of the top Pennsylvania shots, who's actually going to be going out to Hong Kong on some national team with Johnny Kaczynski and Ethan Veljic and somebody else. I can't remember. You guys will have to look that up. I didn't jot the website down, and I didn't mean to wish him well for that. But you got Norman Madu, who's played in PDC World Championship. Mark Fair's playing really good. Nick Lindberg won earlier in the year. Donnie Joe's 23 seed. He just won the toughest 501 field of the year, so you got to figure he's ready to go.
So how do they determine the round robin format groups?
Well, you take the 1 and the 32, and they're in one group. You take the 2 and the 31, they're in another group, and you take the 3 and the 30, and they're in another group.
And
then you
keep going
blind draw in the rest of the field into those groups.
Okay.
So every group's going to have 2 seeds. So if you look at Ross Snook and Joe Sliven will be in one. Dieter Schutz and Conley Litton will be in one. Ryan Barnett and Andre Carmen. Gary Mawson and John Part.
Right.
Who wants to be in that group?
And then you basically have, 104 or so people, 108 people that are blind drawed.
Some people that, just fill them in. Okay. And then you don't have to beat the seeds. You just got to beat, 5 of the other guys.
Yeah.
Because, 4 guys are going to get through. And if it's seeded, if the knockout bracket is done the way I think it's going to be done, like the number one, if you finish number one in your group, you're going to end up playing the number 4 out of some other group, and if you finish second in your group, you're going to play the number 3 in another group.
Right.
And it kind of hopefully the brackets won't be identical like they were in Dayton, where you basically only played, it was like they had 2 round robin groups and they only played each other. When I played this in Canada, it was all mixed up. You know what I mean? So you don't play just the same like 2 groups all the way
whole
through.
time, right.
Yeah, because I'm not sure it's supposed to be that way. Dan Olson's going to be there. Gary Mawson's going to be there. Gary threw a 9-darter, what seems like 5 years ago, but it was only the end of January.
Yeah.
I mean, and, he played good in Virginia Beach. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are on form. There's a couple of guys that, if I was setting odds, I would take off the board. Darren Young should be rested. I wouldn't take him off the board. Probably take Williston off the board again. Then he'll win.
He'll probably
I haven't seen him play all year. I mean,
he would probably want you to take him off the board.
Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah.
He'd probably be like, "Hey, it worked for me last time."
Exactly.
So let's give odds on Williston right off the bat.
He's off
What do
the
you say?
board. Oh, you don't
He
want
says
him
he's
to
going to win. I say he's no better than like 10-1.
10-1.
There you go, Scotty. I mean, just so many great players. Sliven played good over the weekend, and then where's Part?
20th.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I mean, I've seen that guy literally. I'm sure he could just roll out of bed, throw like 2 1080s in a row, and then
Crawl back in bed
and go back to sleep. I mean, he's that automatic. Dave Switzer, I should mention, Switzer played awesome.
He had a good weekend.
He had a great weekend, and he played. I mean, people were just walking away, shaking their heads like, "Oh my God, Switzer just killed me." I mean, the guy just couldn't miss. So, here's another guy that seems to be in really good form. A couple of guys, these West Coast guys I don't see. I have no idea how Lorthau's been doing. He played good in Vegas in January, but I haven't seen him since. Frank Hernandez I haven't seen. Brian Plum, I don't think we should ever put Cleveland guys, give odds on Cleveland guys. All Cleveland players should be off the board until they actually start traveling to more tournaments, because I never see these guys. And if you go to Ohio, you see them, and then you go to somewhere else, and they're not there. So I don't know what the deal is with Cleveland, but yeah, they're all Cleveland players officially off the board until they start showing up.
All right.
Conley Litton had a good weekend. Conley's one of these. He just quietly goes about his business. And plays winning darts. So you got to consider a guy like him. My favorite
looks like a tough field.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Sanif played really good in Virginia Beach.
He seemed to be back to form after his.
Well, he told me
injury.
physically his shoulder still hurts him, but that he's over everything else. And I don't know, he looked the same to me. He looked exactly. Everything looked the same as the last time I actually paid attention to him, which was last October, something like that, because I didn't really get to see him play much in Vegas. So as far as odds go in something like this, you have to make John the favorite. John Part has to be the favorite. I don't care what he's seeded, but he's got to be 2-1.
I would agree with that.
Given his record.
Yeah.
He's got to be 2-1. And then, I don't know, you have to make Darren second. Darren's got to be the second seed, but nowhere near 2-1. Field like this, where he's going to have you look at some of these guys that are down low, looking to take him out.
Yeah.
If he's we'll see. We'll put final odds out if I ever actually do see the brackets where the groups are matched against each other, because you kind of know who the seeds are in each group now.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to put It's hard to put odds out right now when you don't know.
I would put
who's going to make it through.
I would put Darren and Gary as like the number twos, just because they have the most big stage, big long format experience. Mm-hmm. It's not a slight on somebody like Larry, who's way up on the money list too, or somebody like Bob, who's played everything known to man and won pretty much everything known to man. It's not a slight on them. I think it's more of a slight of this style of play with this long format alternate start 5-0. These are the guys that have the most experience doing it. Some of these guys, like Joe Sliven, who played in the World Series of Darts way back when. No, he's got experience doing it. I don't know if Donnie Joe played in that thing or not. And then some of these guys, all the Canadians play it. So I think like a guy like Ross Snook or Andre Carmen, who's won it, they have to be considered like, way up there.
Sure.
So if you made Darren and Gary 5-1, you got John at 2. I hope you're writing this down. You got Parts 2-1, and then I would say 5-1. You got Mawson, you got Darren Young.
Right.
And then after that, maybe 7-1. You start putting all the Canadians like Ross Snook, Andre Carmen, and I would put Cheney in there. I put Cheney in there at 7-1. Don't forget, we made Williston like 10-1. Right. I don't want him to feel slighted. I don't want him to feel slighted. Chris White's another guy that kind of White and Barlow both. These Canadians, they're used to playing this long format 5-0. Norman Maddu plays it. And, every time I see Norman, he's playing good. So I don't know what happened to him over the weekend. It was weird. It was like in Virginia Beach, there's all these good players that I never saw throw a dart. I played 7 events or whatever it was and never saw them throw a dart. Like they were always in the other half of the bracket. Like I never saw Cheney throw a dart all weekend.
They just kind of odd.
It's just a mathematical quirk.
Yeah.
It's but then, I saw all the guys I usually see. Like I saw Larry and I saw Gordon and I saw Bob and I saw, I always seem to play Swick when he's I played Swick twice. So I mean it's kind of weird. I played Barnett again. Mm-hmm. I seem to play him everywhere I go. I end up with Ryan Barnett in my bracket. It's just kind of weird. So yeah, what did we say for those guys? 7-1?
Yes.
Yeah, this field is going to be like 25-1. If you take the top 20 players and you give them odds, then it's 25-1 for everybody else. I got to figure like we did last time, right?
Right.
Looking for like the upset specials. Who could you really look at and be like, because like a guy like Mark Fair, who's a great player that he doesn't get out much from Pennsylvania. He's getting out kind of more now. Mm-hmm. There's a guy that could do damage. Sheldon Lionel, great player, never seems to leave Florida. I see him every other year. You got to watch out for guys like that.
Well, those guys would end up in the field anyway. So when you're making your wager,
well, no, I'm saying that you got to put odds on these guys. You can't, and Dieter Schutz. Look at Dieter. I mean, Dieter's a great player. He knocked out Ralph in the cricket, and Ralph was kind of like shaking his head. I'm like, hey, Dieter can play. I mean, the guy's been around forever. He's played in Europe. He's played all this, alternate start. This alternate start long format 5-0, that people are not used to. It messes with their heads a little bit. You don't have to outrun the bear. You only have to outrun your slowest friend. Oh, God, I don't even know what that means. It sounds funny, though.
You never heard that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Does that mean something? Oh, is that the strategy of the round robin? Just don't finish last?
Yeah.
Well, you got to finish ahead of 4 of your slowest friends, I think.
Well,
or 5.
For that.
Whatever it is. But
I get the analogy.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you handicap this? I don't know. Well, maybe we'll put odds out once we see. We'll put final odds out. Final odds out once we see the final brackets. Mm-hmm. But so who do we got at 7-1?
Snook, Carmen, and Cheney.
So let's do a group at 8-1. Put McCool at 8-1. Put Chris White at 8-1. I don't know about Switzer. He's Canadian. He's got to play this stuff. And he did so well. Yeah, you know what? Put Switzer at 8-1. Give him some expectations. And Dan Olson. Dan Olson should actually be in that 7-1 group. Dan's played this stuff. Dan knows all. Dan's going to have, like, no worries at all. Plus, he made the final he made the semi in Dayton, which was the same kind of format. Yeah. So, yeah, don't count Dan Olson out at all. It's just so weird seeing some of these guys at 11 seed. I mean, he, in a normal thing, he'd be way
top
up.
5, top 8.
Right. Let's take a break, and we're going to go down the North American money list to see who's really going to be seeded, and then we'll adjust the odds.
All right.
Okay. So we'll be right back. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mark and Steve. Okay, back for, I don't know, the sixth quarter. Brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
The DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Thanks, everybody, for hanging with us.
Late.
Yeah, we're 6 quarters running late. Sorry for the long delay there. Where were we? Did we set our odds? Are we done?
Well, we got up
1,
to 8
2,
to
3,
1.
8 to 1. We got, what, 10 guys? Yeah. We'll have to finish them another time. You got to put Donnie Joe up there since he won in Virginia Beach. You have Switzer up there. Sliven had a good weekend. I don't know. Somebody like Barlow. Barlow played really good on Friday. A guy like that, if he catches fire, he'll smoke people.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll smoke. He's beaten everybody in this field at least once, including John. I mean, so how do you? What kind of odds do you put on a guy like Barlow? You know. I mean, if he's on his A game, anybody, he could beat anybody.
Well, that's
how's his
just
B game?
That's
I
like
mean,
saying
it's
that,
weird. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but you put odds on everything. But that's like saying, somebody on the PGA Tour that's won before but isn't necessarily playing well is in the field. But that doesn't mean he can't win the Masters.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
like a Mike Weir or something.
Who's more likely? That's what odds are. Who's the likeliest person to win? That's why John's on top. John's been on top in North America for like 20 years.
Right,
of
but
course
just
he's
because
on top.
Jason Barlow's beat everybody on the list doesn't mean he's more likely.
No, but it means he's capable and
Sure.
should be considered and not left out of the conversation.
Right.
Right? I mean, and
But he could still
anybody I don't mention
But he could
is
still
sort of
be in the
getting
field at
dissed
25 to 1 is what I'm saying. He doesn't have to have a 10 to 1 or a 15 to 1 necessarily on him.
Well,
because he's still in the conversation being in the field. Because field
when you
bets,
go to Vegas and
field
there's
bets win.
Yeah, if you go to Vegas and there's 144 guys in a PGA field, I mean, how many guys are actually in the field? Like 100?
Oh, I'm not
90?
exactly sure, but probably.
I mean, they literally. I mean, if we put odds on these 32 guys, there's still another 100 people in the field, right? So I mean, you're talking about a seeded player here, right? So that's all I'm saying. And these, the head-to-head odds that these bookies put out for the Premier League is kind of like, I don't know how you make any money.
I don't know either.
Any money. It's hard enough to pick these things.
Yeah.
So let's, what do you want to do? The Premier League, and then I'll start by yelling.
With the rant?
And then people can, turn it off while I start ranting.
Or
should we make
the
them wait for the... Yeah, we should have done the rant first.
What, just so everybody
would
stop
listening? No, I think because
listening?
everybody wants to hear, what we have to say about the NWDS, because that's like the biggest. It's not the Super Bowl, but it is like the first real major of the year, because we're at the point now where you only have one money list that counts, and that's the North American Championship Tour money list. That's the only ranking list that really counts. You can, if you want to go look at the other ones.
How come we don't put odds on the women?
We should put odds on the women. I could do that. I could put odds on the women right now. I will run down the women's seeds.
All right.
That are the women's seeds for their round robin. Stacy Bromberg, Trish Gressick, Paula Murphy is a 3 seed. Okay. Oh, because this is NAPTA. All right. Stacy, Trish, Paula Murphy, Brenda Roush is 4th, Marlies Keough 5th, Holly Frary is 6th, Gloria Gutierrez 7th, Kathy Salway 8th, Valerie Goad. Nice. Maria Mason, Kim Keller, April Thompson, Morgan McCormick. Remind me to talk about her. Yvonne Martin Cowling, Liz Tynan, and Sharon Weller. Okay, so those are your top 16 women, which means Sharon and Stacy will be in one group. Liz Tynan and Trish Gressick will be in one group. Let me tell you, see, people around America don't know Liz Tynan like we know Liz Tynan. Liz Tynan can beat the crap out of every woman on that list.
Yep.
Without any sort of, without blinking an eye. And I've been telling her this for years. If you would just go out and play, you'd see how well you would do. So it's going to be...
it's nice that she's going out there.
Yeah, I wish I could watch. I mean, I have to play.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see how Liz does. And those are that's a pretty big claim. Liz would never talk like that. I'll do it for her.
Yeah, she wouldn't. She barely talks at all.
Yeah, well, she's kind of quiet and reserved and everything. Yeah, okay, long format 5-0. It was Paula Murphy and Andrea Taylor were the finalists last year, or no, in October at the NWDS, and then the top 4. Callie West was one, and who was the 4th one? I don't remember. Yeah, Paula's playing pretty good. Stacy's playing pretty good. Trish was on fire for a while there. I'd have to say, yeah, they're the top three. I don't know if there's any other women that aren't listed here. There's a couple I'm thinking of, like I don't know if Andrea Taylor's going.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably. There's also another actually great tournament that weekend in White Mountain in New Hampshire. So a lot of the East Coast, like Tom Sawyer, Andrea Taylor, are going to be at White Mountain, which Jeff Smith too. And it's rough. I mean, we're going to have to figure out something to stop some of these conflicts. I know it's hard, and I know there's only 52 weekends a year, and hotels only have certain openings, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. But at some point, the legitimacy of your endeavors is going to require that you make every effort not to, run an event when everyone's out of town, like certain ADO area managers are going to do. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, if you're an area manager and you have responsibility for things like the integrity of your event, and you're going to run an event when 150 of the top players are out of town and have the audacity to tell somebody, oh, they wouldn't come anyway, is like, you got to be kidding me. Everybody sees through that. Everybody knows what you're doing. Just nod your head.
Yeah.
Don't defend it. Like, people are idiots and will believe anything you say. Why don't you just – I would have more respect for somebody that said, you know what, I really want to go to the Win-Mar Masters. I really want to qualify for Dallas, so I'm scheduling my regional when everyone is out of town, so I have a better chance of winning. If he said that, I would have way more respect than some ridiculous explanation that everybody can see through and is like, would you just give me a break? Please. I mean – a lot of people in his position might do the same thing. Who knows? I mean, but don't pretend it's something it's not, okay? Don't insult everybody's intelligence. That's what the NDA did with that ridiculous thing they put on the internet. Everybody knew that was a lie.
Yeah.
Don't do that. All right, we'll mention it, right?
Right.
I mean, it'll be there for the next 75 years that people can look it up, right?
Oh, sure.
We're talking history. We're living history, man. Okay, so where was I? Because I got irritated beyond all belief there.
Are you putting
odds on the
Trish
women
and Paula all in
the
same
Let's
group?
do no, you know what? Because Stacy's been on top for so long, you have to make her the betting favorite. So make Stacy like 4-1. Trish and Paula 6-1. Brenda's played long format 5-0. She's played against guys and stuff. She's done well, so she can be in the next group with. See, here's where I'm messed up because I never get to see the women play. Mm-hmm. I see the guys play and I play against them all the time, so I get a decent sense of.
How
sometimes especially if I've seen them regularly, I get a sense of like, okay, this guy's struggling
playing
lately.
better now, right or not?
This guy was playing way better last year than he was this year, or this guy was doing really good, but it looks like he's tapered off. This guy obviously is struggling. This guy's complaining about his equipment, whatever. I mean, with the women, I'm kind of flying blind here, and you just going on reputation. I mean, the seeds kind of, it kind of makes sense, and it looks like any other list. I would look out for a couple of people. I would look out for Morgan McCormick, who is really young. She's a teenager and just been playing spectacular darts. Her and Tyler Mears are the two teenagers that, like, those two ought to team up and start playing doubles together. And they could play together for the next 50 years if they could, if they still end up standing each other, that'd be kind of funny. And then there's actually a couple of women I don't know. I would look out for Kathy Salway. Kathy seems to have rededicated herself to the game. I'd look out for Holly and Marliese, and because I know Marliese played pretty good in the triples alongside Gordon Dixon and myself. Although I did miss those darts at the.
Well, yeah, that's not her fault.
No. And the women. Nobody plays this. The women don't play long format 5-0. So I think the women that were in Dayton are going to have a bit of an advantage over the ones that weren't because they've played the format before. Stacy obviously has played long format 5-0. She's played it overseas. She's won, titles and stuff like that. So, you have to make her the betting favorite. Trish, Canadian. I don't see I wonder if Robin and Callie are both going to White Mountain because I don't see them there. So it should be interesting. I would watch out for Morgan McCormick there and Liz Tynan. I would not. Right. I wouldn't put Liz in the field. If she was in the field, I'd be a field better.
Yeah.
Swear to God. And there's a lot fewer, so we don't have to go that far down on the odds, and I don't want anybody mad at me. So
God forbid that would ever happen.
Like,
you just don't want any more people mad at you.
Well,
you don't want anything added to the
I'm
list.
just saying, man. I mean, it's like some of these women's matches I think would be like extremely compelling if I think the women in Dayton got nervous. They're not used to playing on stages. They're not used to playing in front of cameras. And that's another reason that, some of these guys should be seated, like John, should be seated higher. I mean, John's not going to bat an eye if you point a camera at him. He's on camera all the time. Whereas some of these guys maybe have only been on a stage at a tournament twice. So, I mean, if they – and wait till you see where they're going to have – the final's going to be somewhat spectacular.
Oh, okay.
They've got like the disco
where
stage.
Where the platform is?
Yeah. They've got the disco stage. It's going to be an awesome venue for a final. And we'll have to if we get any information on the streaming schedule and stuff, we'll definitely post it on the Facebook on the Dart Talk Facebook page so everybody can see it. And I'm sure it'll be posted on newworlddartseries.com if you guys are interested in that. And also, they're going to be streaming that Darts Live stuff. Do you want to explain the Premier League? Because, it was a long time ago and I'm confused. But basically,
you want to explain it as in
the Premier League, the way it stands now, is the most brilliant or lucky.
Everybody still has a shot.
Yeah, it's the most brilliant or lucky format they've ever had. There's literally 10 guys playing
for 8 spots.
For 8 spots, and with 2 weeks to go, only 2 guys are guaranteed that they're not going to get kicked out.
Yes. Right. So there's 8 guys fighting for 6 spots.
Right.
After 7 weeks of play, with 2 weeks remaining.
But we did get like 15 minutes on the Super Cray to work out all the quadrillion permutations.
Yes.
And you have boiled it down to, let's just say what the matches are this weekend, or Thursday, tomorrow. What are tomorrow's matches?
The big matches tomorrow is Thornton plays Whitlock.
Right. Robert Thornton is going to play Simon Whitlock, and then
Thornton's
the other big one...
got 7 points, and Whitlock's got 6.
Okay,
and the other big one is Anderson and Newton.
Right. Newton's at the bottom, looking at relegation.
Right.
So Newton has to win, and then Anderson only has 5 points.
Right.
So he
has to win.
There's
as
3
well.
guys at the bottom tied for second to last with 5, and that's Anderson, Lewis,
and Newton.
No, Newton's got 3.
Oh no, those are the only 2. Lewis and Anderson both have 5.
And who's the third guy with 5?
Nobody. Whitlock's got 6.
There's only 2 guys with 5.
Right.
Okay. And then Thornton's
got
7.
3, and Thornton's got 7. But your
Okay.
big matches are Thornton against Whitlock with 7 and 6 points, and Anderson and Newton 5 and 3. So if Newton loses, he's out. He doesn't even have to worry about week 9.
Right. The most the 5 guys can get is 9 points, and there's like 5 guys sitting at 8.
3 guys sitting at 8.
3 guys sitting at 8. 2
1 guy
at
at 7,
10.
1 guy at 6, 2 at 10.
2 at 10, 3 at 8 is 5. 1 at 7, 6.
5, 5 at 3. So
They
basically,
couldn't have designed this any better.
Even
to be
Taylor-
in week 9
Right.
and still have all compelling
well,
matches.
Taylor, Wade, and Hamilton all sitting at 8.
Learn something from that. Well, they could conceively
be
lose their
relegated.
last 2 matches and be out of it.
Yeah. It's highly unlikely, but it is a possibility.
Well, if everybody's at 8 but Newton, somebody's going down, right?
Say that again?
If everybody has 8 points except for Newton, because Newton can only make 7 if he goes win-win, right?
Correct.
The most he can get is 7.
Yeah.
If all these other guys with 5 go win-draw, and they're at 8, and somebody like Taylor who's at 8 or Andy Hamilton who's at 8 drop their last 2 matches,
Then there's a tiebreaker.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's leg differential. Did we look to see whose leg
We did not check
differentials
that part
is
out,
the
no.
weakest? Okay. Well, we can do that if we want. So let's run this down. So Adrian Lewis is playing Andy Hamilton. That's first on. And then
Must
Lewis
win for Adrian
basically
Lewis.
has to win. Lewis is looking at he's second to last. He's got to get to at least 8. We figured. Is that the cutoff we said or 7?
Yeah.
Right. if he loses both of them and he's at 5, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a goner. So he's got to win at least one, and you got to figure he needs a tie. And he's playing. Who's he playing next week? You remember? See, it was like 2 hours ago. So anyway,
yeah.
Adrian Lewis is playing Andy Hamilton.
I think he might have
sitting
Ben
at
Barneveld
8.
next week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's got Barney. So it's do or die.
He's got the toughest.
Yeah, he's got
next
the
two
toughest
matches.
next 2 matches. So he's
Yeah.
got Andy Hamilton, who's sitting at 8 and had been playing very solid all year.
And if he loses that, then he's got to beat one of the 2 guys tied
to get to 7, which may not even get him in. He's got to beat Van Barneveld, who's been just steadily cruising along, winning every week, pretty much. Wow.
Yeah, that's tough for him. So he really has to win.
And he's actually the favorite.
Well,
he's been outplayed all season, right? And he's because everybody's betting on him. It's got to be, right?
It's got to be.
You want to bet on him? You take Adrian Lewis here?
I wouldn't. I think he's going to put too much pressure on himself.
You like Hamilton? Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. 7-2 on a draw. I don't know. You know what? I never want to bet the chalk, but I would definitely take. I would take him there.
Who, Lewis?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I would take Lewis. I can't see him
All right,
getting
we'll go with
relegated. I can't see him finishing in the bottom 2. He's got to get it in gear somehow. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Whitlock and Thornton. Now, Whitlock is at 6 and Thornton's at 7. This is the one that you said was kind of. If Whitlock wins, he's pretty much in, and Thornton is in danger. If Thornton wins, then Whitlock's in danger.
Right.
And, so the winner of this match is pretty much guaranteed to get through.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, because
unless,
at that point,
something I can't.
Otherwise, worst case, they would be looking at probably a tiebreaker if they get, once you get to 8.
Exact same odds. Whitlock a slight favorite over Thornton.
Mm-hmm.
And, Thornton's basically cooled off since that 109 average.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he's done nothing.
3 weeks ago.
I think you take Whitlock there and hope he shows his class. Taylor and Van Barneveld. Taylor is a 4-6 favorite, and it's tougher odds on a draw on that one than the other ones. I don't know how they figure this stuff.
Right.
Taylor's 4-6 and Barney's 13-5. Is that 2.5 to 1?
Yes.
2.5 to 1
more.
versus 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
No. Is that one? No, it's 2 to 3.
It is 2 to 3.
Have you ever seen 2 to 3 odds on anyone in your life? I don't understand how these guys do anything. I don't know. Taylor's not been playing well.
No, he finally came out of it last week.
He could conceivably lose against Barney and lose the last week and get relegated. I mean, it's mathematically possible.
Yes.
Can you absolutely?
That's why it's so cool.
There's no way you could see
All
that.
These guys sitting at 8 are mathematically not locked in yet.
I would say draw there. I would say Taylor gets a draw.
Didn't we decide we couldn't pick draws?
Oh, did we decide that?
Because we're not going by odds. We're just picking winners.
You know what? Let's take Barney.
Take Barney?
Yeah, let's take Barney. The Gary Anderson, Wes Newton thing is like, Anderson's a pretty big favorite, and Wes Newton's back is to the wall, and they're in Scotland.
Yeah.
So Gary's going to have
I remember the home field advantage.
Well, I remember him like the first year that he was in the Premier League and they played in Scotland. He played horrible.
Oh, really?
I thought he did.
Okay.
So now he's in front of the home crowd against Wes, who's like.
Wes has a long
Nothing
road.
has gone right. It's not that he's played that badly every week. I mean, nothing has gone right for this guy. I wonder if he can turn it around, because if Anderson loses, he's in big trouble. Then he's tied with Newton.
Right.
At
and
5.
then it depends on what Lewis does, because all 3 of them could be tied at 5. If Newton beats Anderson, then that basically helps out. That guarantees all the 8 seeds and possibly, or the 8 points and possibly Thornton at 7.
The 8s are all. If Newton, all the players are going to root for Newton.
Oh, sure.
All the 8s are in.
Yeah, they're all in.
If Newton loses,
then it's
basically it's wide open. So the TV people would want Newton to lose.
Right.
I don't think that matters any, but I have no idea who to take there. I really want to take Wes.
Okay.
I really want to see him like with his back to the wall,
Come out and
come out with his best stuff and show everybody he's Wes the Warrior and win. I mean, I think that would be a better story than Gary Anderson pummeling him in front of a Scottish crowd.
Right.
When his play's been so spotty all season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's take Wes. Our picks have been so bad lately. Who cares? All right, Wade and Van Gerwen. I'll take Mike.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not?
Easy. I mean, Wade's played very well.
He's 8-15.
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
No.
It's 1-2.
Yeah.
I mean, Wade's 3-1, pretty much, a little over 3-1. I mean, that's not any great odds, but that's a pretty hefty price.
Mm-hmm.
I could see people taking Wade.
Oh, for sure.
3-1. I don't know.
Not us.
Not us. Who are we taking? We're taking Mike.
We're taking
right?
Mike.
We like Mike?
Van Gerwen, yeah.
Okay. All right, one more break, and then I'm going to go off on somebody. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mark and Steve. Okay, back for the 8th quarter. I lost count.
It's kind of like free baseball.
To be honest, I'm tired of talking. But we'll wrap it up. We're not going to go much longer. But I did want to talk about something.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find some all-encompassing kind of hook for this conversation. And it came to me in Virginia Beach because I ran into Joe Huffman. Now, Joe was like probably playing the best darts of anybody in America about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago,
right.
Whatever it was. I lose track. Too many tournaments. And it was good to see him. He had some stuff he was going through, and it looks like he's coming back. He played well over the weekend, won some, lost some, like most everybody but Cheney. But a bunch of people wore their U.S. team shirts. Mm-hmm. Sandy Hudson wore hers. Huffman wore his. I think I saw Sawyer wearing it at one point. And I got to thinking, because I argued with somebody about cricket, and I remember somebody telling me, well, if it's American darts, shouldn't it be cricket? And I just started thinking about, where are we now with American darts, and what does the term American darts really stand for?
Why does American darts have to be cricket?
Oh, it doesn't. I mean, that was just like
okay.
a little tangent that I got in with somebody. But the idea of American darts what does that stand for? Like, if you talk about Englishmen and Englishmen playing darts, you're talking about a world standard. If you're talking about, Dutch darts, you're talking about, Van Barneveld. If you're talking about, and Michael van Gerwen now, and, Koh-Stompians and, some of these great Dutch players. I don't go back as far as a lot of people. And, we're talking about, like, the Mount Rushmore thing, which, by the way, keep the emails coming on the nominations for the American Mount Rushmore. This is actually very educational for me. And we'll post something at some point about that. We don't have time tonight, but and then you talk about Canadian darts. You're talking about Bob Sneeve and John Part and all these other great players. When you're talking about American darts, and I'm talking to people about Mount Rushmore, they're talking about somebody who hasn't basically played darts in 15 years. Where
not
is
somebody still on the circuit.
Well, so where is American darts now? And to my mind, American darts is scattered. And, I mean, just look at next weekend. You're going to have, Scotty Kirchner and Ray Carver and Benny Dirch going out to Hong Kong. You're going to have all the great, Americans that are going to be in Vegas, but then you're going to have some of the East Coast people still in the East Coast, and we're not getting everybody together. Now, luckily, next February we'll have a championship that I'm pretty sure will get everybody. But in a larger sense, when you're talking about American darts, I think it's time that we sort of defined what American darts should be and start insisting that this is what American darts are.
Do they have the problem with tournaments in England and stuff like that, or do they always get the top players for their big tournaments?
Well, in England, they're split between the BDO and the PDC, and these guys have been feuding now for 20 years, and it all boils down to people behind the scenes with a little too much ego and not enough common sense. Penny wise, pound foolish, whatever you want to have. Now we're looking at a situation here in America that's starting to look very similar to me. The BDO decided to offer an American a spot in the Lakeside Championship, and then immediately invalidated all the results from the Vegas Open, which was one of the qualifying events for that.
Okay.
So, and now there's a term in American law called ex post facto, which means you cannot pass a law against anything that's already happened.
Right.
Right? It's also in English common law. So what the BDO basically said was they looked at the results of the tournament and then said, all you guys that played in this other tournament don't get any points.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes sense for them, and they gave some half-ass explanation about, because this is for this and this is for this, and you can't play both, it doesn't really matter, which is absolute garbage. Now, the BDO doing something that's absolute garbage is not, to my mind,
not a shock.
It's not a stop the presses kind of thing. It's just another example of how they discriminate.
Right.
Now, what I'm starting to think is it's time for the players to put an end to this stuff. There was another issue.
Well, how do you do that?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
There's another issue where there was a soft tip tournament who basically put players into three groups. You're either an amateur, an A pro, or a double A pro. And the double A pro is like the top of the heap. And a few years ago, they just kind of pulled the rankings from the ADO and said anybody in the top 50 of the ADO is automatically a double A pro when it comes to our tournament. Okay, I mean, I could basically sue them tomorrow and get a temporary injunction and win in about 5 minutes because they have no right to use that list.
Okay.
It's nobody said you could use it. You don't understand what it is, and if you put them in the witness chair, they'll say, "Well, we don't understand what it is. We have no idea how they got it. We just copied it and put it on our list and put double A next to everybody's names, and we're stupid."
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what their only defense would be, and it would get thrown out of court. What they didn't do is take the same list from Canada. So somebody from Canada came in, played as an amateur, and cleaned up.
Right.
Now, what they basically did was they invalidated their own event because they held an amateur event, let pros play, let pros win, and all the amateurs got hosed, and they didn't do anything about it. Nothing. What did the players do about it? Nothing.
Right.
So this is where I'm constantly saying the players have to start getting together and putting their foot down and insisting that things get done. Now, when it comes to soft tip, I don't really play it. I'm not a soft tip amateur, so, I mean, that's on them. I can't do anything for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to get together and 50 of them go talk to the guy and say, hey, we want free entry this year because I played last year. You put a pro in there and they won, and, they'll either say yes or they'll say no. Mm-hmm. And since you've already traveled to Chicago for an expensive tournament and they say no, well, then I'm not going to play. I wouldn't even go. I would just be like, hey, either I get free entries or I don't play, and then go find something else to do on Memorial Day weekend. I swear to God, if I was in that position, I would be so furious. I would have demanded a refund on the spot. But again, this is a question where you've got a private corporation who's running a tournament. They're setting the rules. They publish a flyer, and you look at the flyer and you decide whether you're going to play or not. True. Right?
Yeah.
They pay what's on the flyer, mm-hmm. which is probably, in a sense, a contract. You're willing to do it, so, that's fine. When they have a pro list, though, that is incomplete or implemented in some, haphazard way, and you suffer for it, what are they going to say? Too bad, so sad?
Pretty much.
Why would you do business with them?
Right.
Why would you ever... If you go to McDonald's and the fries are dipped in mayonnaise and served ice cold, do you get your money back, or does McDonald's say too bad?
No, you get your money back.
Again, it's like, as customers, I don't understand why people put up with this. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't really care about soft tip with situations like this because I'm not an amateur.
Yeah.
But I will mention it in shock that people don't do something about this. Now, when it comes to the Americans and American Darts and the American Dart Organization and the BDO saying, well, we're invited and we're invalidating these results, this is where I'm like, okay, enough's enough. Okay, we have a national organization, supposedly, the American Dart Association, mm-hmm. the American Diddle Organization,
the ADO,
which
yes.
The diddling's been better, actually. We've made progress on that. But you've got the ADO basically putting on their website, oh, by the way, this is what the BDO says. We're out of it.
And they don't do anything. Right.
Oh, we're out of it. They want to run qualifiers under the auspices of the ADO, which is a revenue maker for the ADO to send people to go play in the Winmore Masters, which is a BDO tournament where the BDO, once you show up and sign up and win 5 matches, can throw you out because you played in some other event in North America they don't have anything to do with.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we put a stop to this? How do we get the ADO to say, you know what? Unless you change, we're not going to do business with you. We are not going to associate ourselves with an organization that discriminates against our own players. Now, America isn't really about that. America's the land of equal opportunity. It's upward mobility. It's like you play an open event, you show up, you pay your money, you knock heads with everybody, you see who comes out on top. That's American to me. Okay, you don't rig it where you run it when everybody's out of town. You don't have a tournament where it's like, ooh, hey, we're going to have this great tournament knowing that everybody's playing somewhere else and you have a greater chance of winning. That's not American.
No.
Okay? You don't discriminate against the good players by coming up with some system to punish them. You reward effort in America.
How do you get everybody to stop doing business with them?
Well, I don't know. We'll have more to say about this, but I'm just officially announcing that I'm totally fed up mm-hmm. and that enough is enough.
Something has to be done.
If nothing gets done and all you do is just keep doing the same old things, you're never going to see change.
Right, never.
The only way to get change is to take action. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what action do you take is
we still have to figure out.
I actually have it figured out. I'm not going to announce it here because I want to talk to a few people, but I actually do have this all figured out. It's actually relatively simple, but what I want to do is I want all the players to agree mm-hmm. to do something. And then as players, you go to the organization and you say, this is what we want, or we're not using you anymore, yeah. and you can go do whatever it is you do because as Americans, you're supposed to reward effort. You're supposed to reward excellence.
Is that kind of what the
That's
PDC
what people
did?
Are supposed to... Yes! That's exactly what they did. The players said enough is enough and started their own thing, and now look who's successful and who isn't, right? Because organizations that forget that it's the players that are important and not the organizations are the ones that lose, right, in the long run.
Yes.
Look at the PGA Tour. It's awesome, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't do anything against the players. The players are set the rules with management. There's a competition committee in football and in baseball, and they all have unions that represent. I'm not saying union. I'm just saying, if the players don't get together and start agreeing that this is what we want, then what you're going to see anyway is they're going to vote with their pocketbooks. And if you're putting on a tournament experience that's second to none, of course everyone's going to come. And that's what the NWDS did in Dayton. They ran a tournament that was not perfect. Things did not run 100% smoothly. There were glitches, and despite all of that, and despite another horrendous Sunday schedule, right, where people traveling started freaking out and stuff, everybody agreed it was the best tournament they've been to all year. It was the best format. They got the most bang for their buck, however you want to put it. And those are the ones people are going to go to. And people can't go to every single tournament. So when they have to pick and choose, it's going to be those tournaments that people start aiming for.
Sure.
Right. And it's going to replace the tournaments that people had been pointing to. But I've about had it with our organizing bodies with their head in the sand, where some of them are basically, scheduling competitions to their own advantage. And then other ones are saying, oh, yeah, BDO said that. We don't really care.
Right.
At some point, you take a stand and you show leadership, right? That's what an organization is supposed to do. They're not supposed to sit back and collect money. They have soft tip operators for that. Put a quarter in a vending machine, and then if you don't get your quarter back, there's a number to call, and it's a voicemail, and eventually you give up and you lose your quarter. Right? That's the vending business.
And then you just spent more time wasting your time.
That is the vending bit. That's how the vending business is run. They don't care about customers. It's like, hey, you put the quarter in. I don't know. Well, you call this number, call that number. Yeah, whatever. Remember pay phones? When you would say, oh, it ate my quarter, and they'd have you fill out a form, and a month later, Illinois Bell would send you a check for 10 cents, right? But at least they sent the check for 10 cents. It took a month, but at least you got your dime back. This is, this thing with the pro list and everything, it's even worse, right? Because, literally, you go to a tournament where you don't even know what the rules are anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
These guys went to a tournament, and somebody invented a soft tip board that if you flip it, it's got like a soft tip board the size of a steel board. It's like the segments are like way smaller. It's like 2 rows of holes instead of whatever is in there, 5 or something. And they didn't tell anyone in advance. But a couple of people knew and practiced on that thing anyway. So they go to the tournament, and they do really well. And everybody else is like, by the time they're used to it, they're knocked out of the event. Now, how do you find out in advance, one, that this is on there? It's collusion.
Yeah.
That's not how you run a tournament. That's not the American way, is let's see if we can cheat.
Right.
I'm going to run a tournament where I'm going to reward my buddies and hose everybody else. That's not the American way. That's not what American darts is supposed to represent.
Right. I agree with
and
that.
Somebody needs to start saying, hey, wait a minute. Why are we doing it this way? See what I'm saying?
Yes, I do agree.
So anyway, I don't know. I had more to say, but I'm being nice.
Well, eventually, hopefully we can figure out a way.
There's going to be more on this subject.
Yeah, it's not over.
Because I do have a plan
This
that
is
will
not
work.
the end.
No. I have a plan that will work.
Right.
And it will
We'll
only
get to
take
it.
about 7 months. 7 months. I worked it out. I wrote it down. It was cool.
Got it all figured out.
But, yeah.
You need to talk to some people.
Well, I want to talk to some people. I want everybody I want all the players to understand what's going on and what I think needs to be done. And if they all disagree, then I'm going to give it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, okay, if this is what you guys want, then go ahead and do it. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
It's like, but I'm still not going to stop criticizing it. And I'm going to say what I say, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for listening for the 8-hour marathon show.
Sorry,
we appreciate
will not
all
be
the
back
support.
next week.
Yeah, we'll be traveling, but we'll be back the week after. And I don't know what day yet. I'll post it, but we'll have a lot to say about the NWDS. We'll be watching. We'll be there, and it's going to be great. So thanks, everybody, for listening.
Happy Easter.
Right, for Mystery Mark, Steve Panuncielman signing off. Thanks to the Dartzone.com.
Stay in the zone.
The Dartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor, and we will Dart talk to you in 2 weeks. Everybody take care.